The Lincoln Navigator is back and shaved off nearly 200 pounds since we last drove it a couple years ago. It's got new interior, new sheet metal, new features, but is it enough? Because surely Cadillac Escalade and the Infiniti QX80 haven't been asleep at the wheel. Their modern offerings of large SUVs are pretty good. So can Lincoln bring the Navigator back into relevance? Let's go for a drive and find out. Most of the sheet metal here is brand new, showing off its soft and clean lines. Still looks undoubtedly Lincoln with that horizontal light bar out back and mesh grille up front, but it doesn't have that aggressive look like the Cadillac Escalade, nor is it as bulbous as the Infiniti QX80, but it is easier on the eyes and less ungainly to stare at. And Navigator, to be honest, doesn't bother trying to hide its size at all. The new Navigator does without a V8, but impresses with near V8-like performance. Under the front hood is a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, pushing out 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. That's the same engine that you get in the F-150 Raptor, and it's actually a lot of power compared to the Escalade's 420 horsepower V8. With the Navigator, all the power is found near the low end of the power range, so you can get these nice quick bursts of power, and it's much more eager off the line, whereas the Escalade, you really had to rev it out to the top of the range. Driving the Navigator is more like trying to pilot a two-story building. It's a huge car, and we've got this long wheelbase version here that costs $3,000 more than your standard Navigator. It handles horizontal motions quite well. Body roll is actually not too bad. You throw it into a corner and it's fairly subtle. The body stays fairly flat. But it's the vertical motions, like on this road that I'm driving here, where you really notice the bumps and it doesn't really settle too well onto the ground. And these 22-inch wheels don't help much either. And that's where I think its rivals like the Escalade and QX80 really have the better damping. The Navigator, it's comfortable, but you don't feel as isolated from the road as you do in those other cars. Cabin insulation is really quite good, actually. You can have whisper quiet conversations with your passengers, and to be honest, that's what Lincoln has always done great. Steering is quite numb. You don't really feel much. It's actually quite heavy to rotate the wheel, meaning you do need a bit of arm work to get it moving. The brakes, on the other hand, are actually really good. You don't get that sort of spongy, pillowy feel that you might get in other large SUVs. They're actually quite linear here, and it makes it very easy to modulate and control, so all your groceries in the back aren't flying forward. Exhaust noise is pretty non-existent. Lincoln says some of the noise comes piped through the speakers, but I don't really hear much, and I think that's where the two extra cylinders from the Escalade and its V8 makes you feel more authoritative, and it makes you feel like you're really driving a very powerful, big SUV. Lincoln has really changed up the Navigator's interior. It's no longer a carbon copy of the Ford Expedition. You have your own Lincoln-specific steering wheel, gauges, even the infotainment display is unique. The seats too, these look like those reaction testing punching pads that you see at Dave & Buster's. They're actually really comfortable, and the same ones you get in the Lincoln Continental, but they are a little strong on the bolstering, so wired people might have a harder time getting snug in these seats. The shine and finish, it's excellent, but doesn't have that same wow factor where you see it up in person. It actually looked a little better in photos. The dizzying array of buttons, colors, knobs, and dials, they all become a bit of a sensory overload. The cover panels don't click with that same satisfying feel as you'd find in a BMW. The wood veneer doesn't appear to be of the highest quality, and the new gear shifting buttons that take over the job of the traditional column stock, it just doesn't feel that great to push. Of course, I'm putting the Navigator against some pretty high standards, but if you're spending $100,000 on a rig, I'd expect nothing less. The second row seats, they're spacious, heated, and you can recline a considerable amount. Headroom is surprisingly poor. You sit very high up, but luckily the seat reclines as much as your living room chair, so you can sit back there in total comfort. The screens look expensive and important, but the smaller low-rent screen in the center console doesn't. The seats can easily slide forward, allowing access to a cavernous third row. I stand 6 feet tall, and I wouldn't mind spending a few hours in any one of the 7 seats available. Like the Expedition, the third row seats can power recline as well, and legroom is exceptionally good with its relatively flat floor bed. gripes, it's chrome central in here. There's such a dizzying array of buttons and knobs that can be a little disorienting. That and the challenging learning curve of the buttons and the relation of use can be a little confusing for the intended buyer of this Navigator. That also goes for the dizzying array of driving modes from excite to conserve. Each even has their own little explanation, making it even a little more confusing. And to be honest, it's just best to keep it simple, Lincoln. The Star Trek control panels were enough. The paddles also look and feel a little cheap. They look like they're about to fall off. That and the dashboard, it looks nice. That wood panel, it's not too convincing. It doesn't look like that expensive wood. To be honest, this display sort of cuts it right off in the middle anyways. I think if they took this display and put it right into a dashboard and integrated it that way, the interior would appear a lot more spacious and big. New Navigator not only looks and feels more expensive than its Ford Expedition counterpart, but it is. It really justifies that price premium with a nicer interior, better materials, and more tech. It's not the perfect SUV by all means. The ride quality could be better, same with the fuel efficiency, but I'd take this over a QX80 or Escalade any day of the week, and that's because this is the most recently updated large SUV here. The other ones have been updated in a couple of years, and to be honest, I don't think Cadillac and Infiniti are going down without a fight. For now, the Navigator really is back, and it's the new king of the hill. Calvin Chan with Canadian Auto Review. Thanks for watching.